You really have to hand it to Maruti Suzuki. It's been what, 4 decades since the 800 was first launched, and the cars, they continue to be on the bestseller list. Take the old Vitara Brezza for instance. When it was launched back in 2016, Maruti Suzuki really captured the pulse of the nation. It had everything that the people wanted: a great diesel engine, great features, and all that at an attractive pricing point. Maruti Suzuki, they sold those Vitara Brezzas by the bucket load.
And that was then, right? The Brezza was a roaring success, but then everybody else here just came to eat in its pie. The Tata Nexon, the Hyundai Venue, the XUV300, the Kia Sonet, and even this car, the Nissan Magnite. But now, what we have with us here is the brand new Vitara Brezza.
The Brezza facelift.
No, bro, this is not just a mere facelift. And in this video, we are going to show you all the significant updates that Maruti has done to this car and also tell you whether it can take on its rivals, the Nexon, the Venue which has just got a facelift, and also the Sonet. By the way, is the Sonet getting an update anytime soon?
I don't know, man, but first let's test what we have here. And before we go ahead, make sure to drop in the comments which of these SUVs would you like to have in your garage. And while you're at it, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the Evo India channel, and smash that bell icon to stay tuned to all our video drops. Let's talk about the styling of the all-new Brezza. Now at the front you get a slimmer grille which is sort of reminiscent of the one on the older Vitara Brezza. You get dual barrel LED headlamps with the DRL signatures. The fog lamps, they sit nicely inside the black cladding on the bumper, and there's plenty of black cladding all around the new Brezza. Over at the side you get 16-inch alloy wheels on the top spec variant which look nice, and you get a nice haunch at the rear of the Brezza too. Over at the rear you get slim tail lamps, and the Brezza badging is nestled between those very nicely. Now Maruti Suzuki sold the old Vitara Brezza by the bucket load, and when you see one of these on the streets, this will definitely stand out from all of those. Now the Venue, it just got a facelift, and that's the result what we see here. You get a parametric jewel grille at the front, you get these LED headlamps, you get different wheels even though they are the same size as before, and at the rear of the Venue you get tail lamps that now stretch across the rear hatch. And when it comes to the Kia Sonet, now what we have is the sporty GT line variant. Obviously the Sonet is identical to the Venue in terms of dimensions, it is based on the same platform, but with the GT line you get sportier wheels, you get more eye-catching color options, and both of these SUVs, they do command serious road presence on the roads. When you pull up in one of these, it does not feel like you have pulled up in a compact SUV, and that is because both of them, they share a lot of styling traits with their larger siblings. The Venue shares a lot with the Creta, and the Sonet, it shares a lot with the Kia Seltos. The Nexon and the Magnite, they're both as different as chalk and cheese. Now the Nexon, it has been on sale for quite some time now, but you have to hand it to Tata for the rightness of the design for what is essentially a compact SUV, and this Nexon, it has aged beautifully. Not to mention that Tata have always been chipping away and providing some cosmetic updates or the other in the form of the Dark Edition, the Kaziranga Edition, even the Jet Edition. There's so many of these Nexons on the road, and yet it still looks handsome, it still looks butch, and in my opinion this does look like a baby safari, and that's why when you are driving a Nexon, everyone gets the hell out of your way. The Magnite, in comparison, it looks fresh, it looks funky, especially in these brighter, louder colors with the dual tone paint job. It looks very cool. The grille, it is reminiscent of the older Datsuns which were on sale in India, and if you go towards the back and see the tail light, you'll see that the Brezza, it has actually gained inspiration from the Magnite. Now you might feel that in this company, the Mahindra XUV300 does feel a bit dated, but I must say that is not the case. It feels very muscular, it feels the most brute of the lot. In fact, against the shouter offerings that are present in this group, I feel the XUV300 is a bit too low profile, but the brilliance of the XUV300 has always been behind the wheel. And while styling is a bit of a personal subject, I personally prefer the styling of this. Which one styling do you prefer, Mandar?
Now, I personally like the way how the Sonet looks, but let's ask the viewers, which one do you think is the best looking compact SUV of this segment? Let us know in the comments below.
Now, the earlier Vitara Brezza, the only criticism that we had with it of sorts was its overly stiff ride. Don't get me wrong, it handled nicely, but the ride was not the most comfy. And now that has been sorted without losing any of the dynamic polish. Now you have this smart hybrid, and to be honest, performance on this, it is adequate. This powertrain is mated to this new 6-speed auto. It replaces the older 4-speed auto box, and this gearbox does the engine no favors, to be honest. Quick overtakes will need a bit of planning, because even if you put your foot to the floor, the gearbox is sometimes slow to respond, and overall it's not a quick SUV on the move. As you go higher up the rev range, it even gets a lot more vocal. So yeah, this engine does not feel too happy when you are gunning it like some of the other rivals on this test. What the Brezza does feel is superb to commute around the city. The steering, it's nice. I think it's the only one in this company to get rake as well as reach. So it's very easy to get into a great driving position. The seats, they're superb. The bolstering, frankly, it's excellent. It feels such a nice, comfortable place to be in. In terms of the interiors, the quality of materials used has gone up by a big notch. This is frankly one of the best Maruti interiors till date. The quality of materials superb. It feels expensive. Something you wouldn't have said in a Maruti earlier, but it feels nice. It feels like there's a sense of occasion with this, and especially when you're driving at night, you get this blue ambient lighting, which you cannot see in the daylight, obviously. But it does make the Brezza feel like a lot more expensive. It even gets a lot of feel-good features. There's a head-up display, there's the all-important sunroof, first Maruti with a sunroof, and there's a brilliant 360-degree camera integrated into this infotainment. The music system, it's nice. There's a display in the infotainment screen as well as the instrument cluster that shows you where the power is going, the hybrid powertrain at work. And the Brezza, it delivers excellent fuel efficiency. For the automatic that we are driving, you get, I think, 19.8 kmpl. That's the claimed efficiency figure, and that is not bad at all. And the manuals, they give even more, 20 plus kmpl. Even for petrol heads like us, this sky-high fuel efficiency is very hard to ignore. The Brezza, it still handles really nicely. It doesn't get unsettled at all. And to talk about the rear seat comfort and the interior space, I'll hand it over to Mandar, and he'll tell you what the Brezza is like from the back.
In terms of features, I have two USB ports, a Type A and a Type C. I have a couple of air vents blowing cold air at me, and the glass area in the Brezza has always been fabulous. It just brings in more light into the cabin and makes it feel more airy. In terms of space, now Rohit is driving the car, he's 5 feet 4, so I have a fairly good amount of knee room as well as headroom. Let's see how the others fare.
The Hyundai Venue is one of our favorites in the compact SUV segment, and the reason is purely its enthusiasm. The engine, it makes 118 bhp of power, and it is very refined, very eager, and when you cane it, this puppy really comes on song. This engine is mated to the 7-speed DCT, and it is a very quick shifting unit. It's not like one of the Volkswagen Group DCTs with its lightning fast shifts, but around town it also feels a bit smoother, feels easier to live with, and that really suits the character of the Venue very much. Now the Venue recently got a facelift, and along with the nose job that you can see on the outside, a big improvement has been made to the interiors. Overall, the materials used are very nice. It does not feel like any corners have been cut, any money has been skimped on the development of these interiors, and it really looks and feels the part. It feels like an expensive SUV, and that is what you want, right? When you're spending around 10-12 lakhs on a SUV, you want it to look the part, you want it to feel nice, and the Venue, it feels really good. The steering of the Venue is light enough but direct. It feels great to chuck around corners, and the suspension setup is a bit on the stiff side, which means the ride at low speeds, it is not the best. The Brezza would definitely have a better ride quality, and even the Nexon. But the flip side to that is great handling. You can chuck this around corners with enthusiasm. The steering feels lovely, the engine is on point. This is definitely the thrill of driving benchmark amongst these SUVs, I mean. The Venue also gets a sheer number of engine and gearbox options, which make the deal really sweet for any buyer. You also get a million variants to choose from. With the facelift, the Hyundai Venue, it gets dual tone interiors, which add to the sense of airiness in the cabin. That said, the interior space is still not the best. The front seats, they have been scooped out to give additional amount of knee room, but the Venue, it continues to feel as cramped as before. You get a rear armrest on offer along with Type-C USB ports, but the Venue is definitely not the most spacious in its class. Now we are in the Kia Sonet, and I won't waste your time talking about the engine and the gearbox, because basically this is the same as the Hyundai Venue. But what is different is the styling and the overall design of the interiors. This Sonet that we are driving, this is the GT line available on the turbo-petrol, and it feels extra plush. The overall sense of occasion in the Sonet is much better than in the Venue. The all black color scheme on the interiors is very sporty. You get red stitching. The dash, it looks nice. The steering, it feels chunky to hold, and this cabin feels a lot more special than the Venues in terms of kit. Now it is on par with the Venue. You get wireless CarPlay, Android Auto, but small touches like the Bose audio system, the overall slab of digital real estate, it makes the Sonet a much nicer place to be in. In fact, when Kia introduced the Sonet on sale for the first time, it outsold the Seltos, and that is the big thing with the Sonet. With the Venue, you feel like you're in a Venue, you're sitting in a Venue. In the Sonet, it feels like you're buying a mini Seltos. The audio system is awesome. The engine and transmission options like the Venue, they're superb. In fact, even the diesel, we had a long-term Sonet on test last year with the diesel engine, and we absolutely loved it. In terms of the dynamics, the ride, the handling, it is identical to the Venue in all aspects. You just saw the thud going over a rough patch because this is as stiffly sprung as the Venue. But maybe it's due to the seats, or maybe it's just perception, I don't know. But it does feel a wee bit more plusher than the new facelifted Venue. It feels that much bit plusher, but otherwise it's just 19-20 ka farak, how we say in Hindi. This is basically the Venue, and it has all the strengths as well as the downsides that the Venue gets.
And just like the front, it's the same story at the back of the Kia Sonet. It feels identical to the Hyundai Venue in almost every aspect. In terms of space, in terms of comfort, it feels a little cramped, just like the Venue. The Sonet was the first compact SUV to get segment first features like an air purifier, and because of the overall materials and the design that Kia has used in the Sonet, it feels much more plush than the Venue. I also have a rear shade here, which no other car in this segment has, and that just adds to the comfort level of this car.
this is the car that Gaurav Gill actually uses to fly in rally stages and score victories in the INRC. Meet the Mahindra XUV300. This is the only rally car of the lot. And boy, oh boy, we have had great fun with the Super XUV300 in another video. You should check that out. Now, the Mahindra XUV300 is actually based on the same platform as the SsangYong Tivoli, which is sold abroad. But when it came to India, it got a revised face. But everything else remained unchanged, and that included the excellent ride and handling balance. The XUV300 is a damn good handling machine, and it moves. The turbo-petrol under the hood, it really flies. But this turbo-petrol, it really gets a move on once the turbo comes on song. It's a shame that this car is mated to the 6-speed AMT, which does a decent job of shifting through the cogs, but honestly this is not a great gearbox. Even when you're shifting manually, the shifts aren't as quick, and you really need to work the engine and the gearbox to make any good progress. But the handling, oof, this is too good. And the solidity and the ride, that is excellent as well. The seats, very good bolstering. In fact, the interiors itself, I know they look a bit quirky. You get a lot of kit on offer despite the quirkiness and the datedness of these interiors. You get Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, you get 2-zone climate control. I don't know which other car gets 2-zone climate control in this segment. You get rear disc brakes. This is the only car in the compact SUV segment that actually gets rear disc brakes. The steering, it gets this adjustment button for the weight, so that actually you can weigh up the steering more in sport mode, sort of artificially. I haven't been trying that, but the stock setup feels damn good. The clock's easy to read, and Mahindra, rather than giving it a speed beeper for every time you cross 80 kilometers an hour, the clocks flash at you. How great is that? I think all manufacturers should follow that in their cars. You get all the equipment that you need, everything on par with the class. Okay, maybe not a few of the niceties like seat coolers and all that, but this car is an underrated gem. And while I'm trying to play rally driver, let's head to Mandar in the rear seat to talk about the rear seat comfort and how the XUV300 feels at the back.
The XUV300, it has 2600 mm of wheelbase, and that is the longest wheelbase in its class. In fact, it is 100 mm more than the second longest car in this segment, and that translates to more space on the inside. Just look at the amount of legroom I have here. It's quite a lot, right? But this car shows its age when it comes to features at the rear. I literally don't have anything. I just have an armrest and seats, just like the good old days, right? But yeah, these seats are very comfy, and you will surely have a ball while spending time here in the back seat.
The Magnite, it was Nissan's make or break product for India, and because of its roaring success, Nissan is actually still in the country. What it did was provide hatchback buyers with a very attractive entry point into the compact SUV segment, and that is why the Magnite is still selling in good numbers. In terms of features, it gets everything that you need. This was in fact one of the first cars under 10 or 15 lakhs to get wireless CarPlay or Android Auto. Until then, we had only seen that feature on BMWs. It gets a very nicely done digital cluster. The seating position is very nice, especially if you're upgrading from a hatch. And this is the best manifestation of what compact SUVs are all about. Small footprint, big car feel, and lots of confidence. We are driving the turbo-petrol engine mated to the CVT transmission, and the CVT is our pick of the lot. And the Magnite, because it feels light on its feet, it feels eager when you drive it hard. The ride quality is also quite decent. In fact, we have taken it on some road trips across India, and the Magnite has never disappointed. In fact, the low speed ride quality is very good. The handling, it is not very enthusiastic, but it feels safe, it feels secure, and it does the job. In fact, this is a brilliant city commuter, and if you occasionally take it out on the highways as well, you won't be disappointed.
Now we've taken the Nissan Magnite on numerous long trips on our big, bold and beautiful series, and that means that we've spent a lot of time here in the back seat. And let me tell you, the Nissan Magnite, it is an excellent road trip machine. It has a lot of space, a lot of boot space. The only thing where it lacks is the fit and finish. Everything in here, it feels like it is built to a price. Sure, it has a lot of kit on offer, but then everything comes down to the quality.
And finally, we are behind the wheel of the Tata Nexon. And the reason why this is the best-selling compact SUV in the country is frankly simple. It feels like the king of the road. That's it. That's the only way to describe the Nexon. In many ways, it feels like a smaller version of its elder siblings, the Harrier and the Safari, and that's a big positive. This is the most SUV-like of the bunch, purpose-built, muscular, chunky. It feels like you are the king of the road. The seats, they're very comfortable, they're bolstered well. Now this is a mid-spec car that we're driving. This is not the top spec variant, but the top spec Nexon, it gets a lot of kit. You get a Harman stereo, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. This turbo petrol gets the drive modes. You can also have this with an AMT, and this is such a nice SUV to munch miles with. Obviously the diesel would be your choice if you want to munch miles. The turbo petrol engine, it picks off smartly, but then this is not the most enthusiastic of the bunch. That tag would definitely belong to the Venue. The gearbox, not the slickest, the throws are slightly long, and the box itself is not very enjoyable to use. But once you get the hang of it, it's alright. It feels the most stable on the highways. This is the most confident SUV. And yeah, that's the reason why the Nexon sells so much. You get a Safari-like SUV on a budget. Which Indian does not want that? Around the bends, it feels secure. The steering, it feels communicative. Even though it's not the most enthusiastic handler, it does feel safe, secure, and you can chuck it around at a fair bit of speed. And the ride, man, oh man, the ride comfort is its USP. And now I'll hand over to my colleague Mandar, who is in the rear seat, who will tell you all about the ride comfort and also the space on offer with the Nexon.
And in terms of space, I also have a fairly good amount of room to stretch around. Now Rohit is 5'4" and the driver's seating position is adjusted as per his liking. So I obviously have a fairly good amount of room, but even if you are a 5'8" or a 6'footer guy who's driving the Nexon, the passenger in the rear seat will have a good amount of knee room. The headroom also is quite nice, and the Nexon, it also has a fairly low window line, which gives me a good view of the outside. 3 abreast will be a tight squeeze, but it is manageable in the back seat of the Nexon. And the ride quality, its ride quality is the Nexon's USP, and as I said, it is the best riding car of the lot here. But before we give our final verdict, we should also speak a little bit about safety. Both the Tata Nexon and the XUV300, they score 5 stars in the global NCAP crash safety rating test. The Magnite, it scores 4 stars, but in the Asian NCAP tests.
Now we have always maintained that the Vitara Brezza, it is one of the nicest built Maruti Suzukis, and we don't see why the new Brezza should be any different. Brezza, it has not been crash tested yet, but we suspect that it will fare very well on the crash test ratings. And if you're looking for a value for money compact SUV, great for the city commute and the occasional highway run, the Magnite is perfect for the job. Whatever we have said for the Magnite, it also holds true for the Renault Kiger. Now obviously that gets flashier styling, but then you can take your pick. Talking about the XUV300 and the Tata Nexon, both of them scoring a 5-star global NCAP crash test rating. And the ride and handling, frankly, on both of them is excellent. Agreed, the XUV300's interior might not feel as appealing, it might feel a bit dated even though it has all the kit that you need, and the Nexon's turbo-petrol engine, it isn't the most enthusiastic, to be honest. But both these SUVs, they get a full 5 stars on the global NCAP crash test, and they are the safest cars on this test, and in our opinion it gives them an extra 10 points in our book.
Now coming on to Sonet Venue and the Brezza. The Venue, it gets fresh styling, but both these cars, they have superb interiors, a lot of tech inside and a lot of kit on offer. Not to forget the array of trims that both of these cars offer. And honestly, this duo, it is the most dynamic of the lot as well. Now the Brezza, it's not outright as enthusiastic to drive as the Venue or even the Sonet, but this is a car that is much more easier to live with on a daily basis. It's much more comfortable at the back. It also has a lot of kit on offer and Maruti's service that is just unmatched. Not to forget the fuel efficiency of this car. This basically is the same engine that's found in the new Grand Vitara as well as the Toyota Hyryder. But the Brezza, it is the most expensive of this lot too. In fact, it is rupees 1.1 lakh more than even the top spec variant of that Venue which we have there. So if the thrill of driving is purely your thing, go for the Venue. But if you want a car that is much more easier to live with on a daily basis, is very comfortable and also has a lot of features, go for the Brezza.
You mean the facelifted Brezza, right?
Come on man, it's not a facelift.